Steve here, doing another screencast for AutoCorrect 2. You can get it on GitHub here. I'm Kunkel321 on the forums, and this is written in AutoHotkey v2 code. So today we're going to have another look at HotstringHelper, the main dialog that comes with this AutoCorrect 2 script, and the hotkey for the dialog is Win+H, so press Win+H. Hopefully you'll see something like this. And we did another screencast a couple days ago that focused on using this to enter boilerplate items. And this time we're going to look at AutoCorrects. And this is going to be a longer one because AutoCorrects just have more stuff to talk about. So I guess to start with, though, I will point out that I did not create the concept of the HotstringHelper tool. I got the idea from the original AutoCorrect.ahk script by a fellow named Jim back in 2007, and it's even in the AutoHotkey documentation. And Jim based the thing on the list of Wikipedia common typos. So he converted those into AutoCorrect hotstrings and made them available to people. And that included HotstringHelper, which I think might have been made by a person named Terry. I'm not sure, but it was just a little GUI, little input box dialog pop up, and you'd type your new hotstring into it, and it would append it to the end of the library and then restart itself so that the new hotstring would be available in RAM. And so it's built on that same concept, but it's evolved into this big old monster here that you see. And so the HotstringLib is the library that holds the hotstrings, the AutoCorrect hotstrings. I put them in a separate library so that rather than having them embedded in the same code as the HotstringHelper code, it just made diffing easier. So if you're looking at this and you've started HotstringHelper, you probably downloaded the zip file from GitHub and unzipped it in the core folder. You see the main files here. The what are we looking at? HotstringLib.ahk is the one that has all the autocorrect items. There is also personal hotstrings, which recently has been moved to this core folder as well. That one, there's an option for sending boilerplate items to personal hotstrings instead of the HotstringLib. And so by default, when you open HotstringHelper, you won't see the AC and the BP buttons. And for the purposes of making new autocorrect entries, it doesn't matter, because without this setting, the items would just all go into the HotstringLib, which is the correct location for autocorrect items. Anyway, if you do open the HotstringLib file, which I guess I will because I can't resist, you'll notice that the bulk of the items, the code of instance is already running as administrator. That's beautiful. Ah, there it is. You'll see that they are all wrapped in these function calls, the F function, and it has some extra hotstring options here. The button here, the checkbox, make this F function, is the one that sets that. There's some very important reasons why we use the F function, but that is a whole nother topic, so we're not even going to really go into that. All I'm going to say is for autocorrect items, probably going to want to click the make us F function button, and we'll just leave that at that for now. Okay, and back to our list of items here. So so based on the originally on the Wikipedia typo list, and then later I added a bunch of common grammar mistakes that also came from Wikipedia. So thank you, Wikipedia. Please consider making a donation to Wikipedia if you never have. And then a lot of the other autocorrect hotstring entries are just from my own common typing mistakes, the mistake that I saw myself making multiple times and decided to make an autocorrect entry for it. And there are more recently I've created the manual correction logger, which watches my typing mistakes for me and keeps track of common mistakes that I make. Not going to talk about that much today either, because that too is its own topic. But we will talk about the very basic structure of an AutoHotkey autocorrect item, and that is a double colon, the trigger, double colon, replacement. And so you type with this right here. If this was active, I would type trigger. As soon as I typed space or enter or tab or something, period, then trigger would get backspace, pop, 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 and it would type out replacement automatically. And of course, the big difference between boilerplates and autocorrects is that with boilerplate items, they are intentionally made with some kind of easy to remember trigger string and then a big chunk of text that I don't want to have to type over and over again. And so I just type the trigger string, and then it expands to the boilerplate text. But with autocorrects, it's kind of like a behind the scenes safety net. It's preemptively taking care of your typos by just planning to correct them behind the scenes without prompting you. And so they happen as you type. I do want to mention EndChars. So an EndChar is the AutoHotkey word, and it is the list of different things that you can type that will allow the the hot string to trigger. For example, a common one that we were in our other video, we were doing TEH, which is a common misspelling for the. And as soon as I press space, it gets replaced. So space is the EndChar. The punctuation and the white space items that get used for EndChars can be customized in AutoHotkey. For HotstringHelper, for AutoCorrect 2, it just uses the default ones. So, but the EndChar thing becomes relevant in our next discussion here, which is the difference between whole word autocorrect items, word beginnings, word ends, and word middles. And let's do a show a tip here. As you might guess by looking at the HotstringHelper form, is that there is the trigger string, so trigger, and the replacement string, replacement. So for a boilerplate, this would be the easy to remember trigger string. This would be the big chunk of replacement text. For an autocorrect item, this is the misspelled word. Or word with typo, and this is the correct version of the word. So this gets replaced with this. And then options, what options are, that's an AutoHotkey thing, and you can embed things between the first two colons to change the behavior of the hot string item. And here are some examples. So word beginnings can have a asterisk and word ends. And my thing I was going to show you is the tip here. I'm going to put a couple of invalid hot strings in here, and then when I click on that check, this is a validity check. It's going to pop up, and it's going to say, "Uh-oh, invalid hot string options found." ZZ. But then it lists some common hot string options from the AutoHotkey documentation. So EndChar not needed, trigger inside of the words, case sensitive, and then there's a bunch of other ones. These ones won't really do much of anything in the AutoCorrect 2 app, so it won't hurt to use them. But well, I suppose the B0, no backspace, that gets used for the F function, and so does the X. But again, that'll be for a different presentation. But back to the different types of hot strings. So we have the whole word ones, and so here's an example one. I think this probably came from the original AutoCorrect.ahk by Jim, and it's a misspelling for mear. So a mere accident, mere whatever. It's pretty unambiguous. If you type, let's see here. So this is an actual one that I have running. So if I type mear, it's fixed. It has to be a word by itself. So if it's attached to the end of a string of text, mear won't trigger. Also, if it's attached to the beginning of a string of text, won't trigger. So it has to be a space or the beginning of a word before it, then the word, and then an EndChar, right? So it's nice. It's unambiguous. It's not likely to get triggered by accident, but it's not very economical. It'll only fix one word, and it is possible for us to make hot-string autocorrects that will fix potentially multiple words. Sorry about my allergies. Okay, so an example is spyc, which I work in school psychology, so I type variations of the word psychologist lots of different times. So this is a word beginning. So words that begin with psych, psychology, psychologist, psychoeducational. And if I type one of these, example here, as soon as I type that C, it triggers. No EndChar is needed. And so that's kind of nice because if I'm typing psychologist, it'll fix it. This single entry will fix multiple different words. Okay, and then next one, word ends. If it has a question mark, it can be a word end. Actually, before I do that, let me show you more with the word beginnings. If it's the beginning of a word, psychologist fixes it. But if it's at the end of a word, oh, I guess it fixes that too. That must be a word middle actually that appears in my library. But anyways, word end is the one with a question mark. And here's an example. There's lots of shun words: creation, evolution, vacation, tons of different words. And this is a common misspelling of it with the OI instead of the IO. And so this becomes a word end. And I think if I type just TOIN, it replaces it. And if I type vacation, it fixes it. But if I type TION XXX, does not change it. So word ends still have to have an EndChar, but they can have a string of characters before them. So those can be used in the AutoCorrect library as well. So you can also combine these two words, and here is an example of that. The inmg, I think that got added by me, and it's because my fat fingers kept typing the im in addition to the in. So as it turns out, this is a very high utility item. So inmg, and just actually, there's a bonus tip here with the HotstringHelper. If you know anything about HotstringHelper, you know probably that it's mostly designed so that you can select a word that's misspelled and press Win+H, and it gets put into the HotstringHelper, and then it's detecting that I want to make a autocorrect item, so it's highlighting the replacement for me, so I can go ahead and it's focusing that so that I can more easily use my mouse to correct that spelling. Or I can use the spell button to do a spell check, which we'll look at in a minute. But check this out also, is that if you select an entire existing hot string, and then press the key, it will parse the hot string into its component parts with the trigger here and the replacement here. And it will also open up the exam pane. So the things you're seeing down here, the exam pane, it says exam on the exam button. Open it. The button changes to done. and it has these word analysis components, which we're going to look at in a minute here. But I wanted to show you this one thing here. This string of letters inmg is present in 20,000 different words. 20,000 different English words have this have ing in either the end or middle of it. And it doesn't misspell a single word. There's not a single English word that has ing, which makes it a really good autocorrect entry because it won't accidentally misspell words. Okay. So what else? Case-sensitive items. So you can put a capital C in the options, and it will make the thing so that it only works when I type lowercase inmg. And that's, I try to do that. I try to use this option with autocorrect entries that have like 4 or fewer characters or letters in the trigger string, just because there are so many acronyms that you run into that I don't want to be typing an acronym someday and have it get corrected because it just happens to be coincide with one of my hot strings. Acronyms, almost always we type them as capitals. So if there's a capital acronym, INMG, I don't know what that would be an acronym for, but if there ever is and I type it with caps, it won't trigger, right? So, except I don't, my actual autocorrect entry has that. Let me see, do a check for duplicates. And, oh yeah, it does, here it is. So, so that means if I type INMG, no correction. Lowercase INMG gets fixed. Okay, good. All right, where are we? We're already 17 minutes into our presentation here. So we looked at the case sensitive, the validation and tips, which is up here. Put in an invalid entry, click check, get your tips here. Okay, and then we looked at word beginnings, middles, ends. I guess probably exam pane is the next thing we want to look at. And so again, clicked on the exam button, it expanded down into this. First, notice the delta string. So I call it delta because that's a concept in like mathematics or something that indicates change from one state to another, something like that. And this indicates, it shows the a bracket here with the part that gets corrected, with the before correction here and the after correction here. Let me actually pick a bigger word to practice with here. Let's do discombobulated. Misspelled, should be an in here. So click this, hotkey, and it's not going to work. This is just giving me a hard time. It's actually, I think it's Camtasia Studio is sucking up all of my computer resources, messing me up here. Let's try it again. There it is. Okay, and then click the delta string to reset it, and there it is. Okay, so as I said, it's the HotstringHelper has detected that we have we're likely making a autocorrect entry, and the way it does that is that it detects that there are fewer than 2 spaces, which means 3 or fewer words, and there are no new lines. It's all in one line. So it says, yep, that's probably an autocorrect item. Okay, so this is highlighted, so I could just go in and just manually change that, but I will also show you the spell button. And so this is kind of supposed to be like a spell checker. It doesn't turn your autocorrect into a spell checker, but it does a spell check and tries to get a correct spelling of the word in the replacement box. Sorry for clearing my throat so much. Okay, so I click it, and this uses the LanguageTools .org API, or is it LanguageTools.com? I don't remember. It used to be a free. They used to have a free Chrome add-in. Unfortunately, it's not free anymore. But the API service that AutoCorrect 2 uses is still free. Fingers crossed. And so it shows you the original text discombobulated, and the suggested correction discombobulated. So I click Use Correction, and it automatically changes this. Bonus tip: if you are doing a big boilerplate item, a big boilerplate replacement, and you just want to spell check one word, you can select the one word and then click the spell button. And it'll check just the one word. That feature was added since the screencast about boilerplate entries, so it's not in there. Okay. What else? So I've corrected this. I click on the delta string again, and it shows me the where on inside the bracket of the items, there's the pipe character, and on the left of the pipe character is the typo, and on the right of the pipe character is the correction. And so what happens is, remember, with multi-word middle items, or beginnings or endings, we have these radio buttons here. So middle, and so for the purposes of our demonstration here, I'm going to uncheck this to get rid of the B0 and X options up here. But I do want you to still be able to see the asterisk and the question mark. And as I change these, the ones up in here in the box get changed as well. Oh, and also if the exam pane is closed and I put a specific thing here, such as the question mark, and when I open the exam pane, the associated radio button will be selected. Right? So, okay. And then also a tip is that if you right-click any of these three radio buttons, it will clear all of them. Okay. So again, what I want to do with this word is, it's a pretty long word, and I know that I can get at least a couple of different potential autocorrect fixes from this, because it has ed at the end, past tense. So if I just get rid of that, I can catch discombobulate and maybe discombobulator. So word middle. And what I want to do is trim off the same words at the beginning. The same words at the end of the trigger and of the replacement. And so basically, we just we have a trim button here with a little back arrow things. So trim, and the on the delta string here, it is attempting to show the trimmed letters as red to kind of help us keep track of what we're doing. The idea is to trim off as many words as you can, as many letters as you can, to make it match the most amount of words, but also without, if you trim all the way into the M and the N, that will of course break the effect, because we're trying to change the N to the M. So we trimmed it off. We're matching discombobulated, discombobulation, discombobulations, discombobulating. And this is potentially an okay autocorrect here. I could click append. Let's see here. I guess another consideration, and I don't know if I want to get into this too much because it's a kind of a big topic, but shorter strings for multi-match autocorrect items are more ambiguous, because it's more likely that it'll either be an acronym or something that is typed. You're trying to type one thing and accidentally do a typo, hit the wrong key, and the wrong key causes it to match a trigger string for a completely different word that you didn't even mean to type, and then you get an autocorrection into something that's totally different. And so that's what I call confounding mistyping. So you can read about that in the documentation folder, which I do recommend taking a look at the manual. It's in the download is the documentation folder, and then check out the manual. Especially after you've seen this video, because you'll see that some of the table of contents items match some of the verbiage used in this presentation. But anyways, another consideration is that well, first of all, so shorter strings more likely to result in confounding mistypings. Longer strings more likely to be less ambiguous, right? So they match fewer words, but they're less ambiguous. It's less likely that you'll type it on accident. And so the other thing is that I find that as I'm typing, if I see that I have made a miscorrection, so if I type discombobulate, I'll see it and I'll say, oh no, that's supposed to be an im, and so then I will manually change it. And so the trigger string will never fire because you have to get all the way to the T for this trigger string to activate. And so what that means is that if you trim away the maximum number of letters after the miscorrection, see here, as soon as I type the in, discom, it would change it to an im, which is kind of advantageous. But you might have also noticed that when I clicked that last trim, a bunch of words appeared over here. And so that's because discom corresponds to a bunch of different words, disconcert, disconcerted. So we can't have that. We don't want to, or otherwise we'll never be able to type disconcert. It'll turn into disconcert. And so I need to do an undo. So undo the trim. So that's what our undo button does. Undo the trim, and the delta string will attempt to recolor it to show where your trimming is. So I trim as many as you can so that the autocorrection happens as soon as possible, gets triggered as soon as possible after the misspelled word, but don't trim so much that you have misspellings. Okay, and what else? You'll see on the button here the undo, and then it has plus, reset, and the plus in AutoHotkey is shift. So shift click is it'll undo all of the trims. Okay, and then right-clicking will also undo all of the trims. Okay, 26 minutes now. So let's see here. So radio buttons, trimming and untrimming, we talked about those. And then the metrics, the fixes and misspells. So you probably also noticed the fixes and misspells. And so as I was converting the original list from Jim and Wikipedia into word middles and word ends and word beginnings, I was kind of impressed by some of them that were that had the fixed corresponded to a large number of words and potentially fixed them. And so I started putting that information into the comment, the inline comment for each of the items. So, for example, this one fixes 140 words. Pretty cool. For one entry, it fixes 140 potential words. And so I also put that metric here on the HotstringHelper. And in addition to that, there's an option to turn it off, but by default, it will automatically put that into the comment for the item when it's corrected, or sorry, when it's appended into the library. Sometime after that, it occurred to me that some words are maybe more commonly typed in English, because there's the word list I use has like 250,000 words, which became problematic. I'll talk about that in a bit. But I wanted to make sure that I don't, miss any words for the misspells and accidentally misspell a word. So I wanted a list with a lot of words. So I picked a big list, and I wanted to put the potential number of fixes. By having this formatted as fixes X words, I was also able to do a run, make a scriptlet that adds those up. And so Control F3 pops up this. So this shows the total number of autocorrect items. Regular autocorrects is whole word items, and then many beginnings, middles, ends. Total entries, there's 7,100 items. Potential fixes. So fixes, this one is 2278. The potential, if you add up all of those, it's like 740,000, almost 41,000. So, it's pretty good, I guess. All right, so where was I? The web frequency. So it occurred to me later, lots and lots of words matched. Sometimes a lot of those words are so obscure that nobody would ever type them in real life. And so it occurred to me that some words are just high frequency words. And it occurred to me that there probably are some lists on the internet that rank words with how common they are. Like the is, I think, the most common one. So there's you can read about that in the manual if you want. But yeah, the web frequency it provides it's the number of times. So like there's one word right here. So in the web frequency is based in millions. So the discombobulated occurs 0.03 million times on the internet. The list is like 10 years old, so it's probably more now. But yeah, so that's what that is. So again, I make this ordinal, trim a couple letters, and still not a very big frequency. But watch some of these other ones. Ing, press the hotkey, and it's the web frequency for this is, and remember this is expressed in millions, so this is what 18 billion times these words. So the total of how often these words occur on the internet, all those numbers added up, 180 billion. Whatever, I don't know. Okay, let's see. What's next? So the metrics. So I guess the reason this is most useful, the web frequency, is that if you had two hot strings that conflicted with each other so that they couldn't both be used, and you had to pick one over the other, you probably would pick the one with the higher frequency usage in English. And so that's why that becomes useful. Whew, okay, 31 minutes. Yeesh. Okay, the comparison word list, I already talked about that. That is in the data folder of the zipped up download file. And as I've been using the HotstringHelper, I find that there are a lot of words in there that are like non-words, which I find annoying, but I'm not sure exactly how to get rid of those without manually going through all 250,000 of them and removing them. So they are in there. But as I said, at least it assures that you're very unlikely to accidentally have a trigger string that corresponds to words, because if you do, they will appear here in the misspells edit box. Okay, so let's look at the buttons. So the spell button, we already looked at this. Get a word discombobulated, and then click spell. If a word, let's see here, you click spell, you get the API lookup, which this time I will just do a manual correction. And click this word. So for the spell button, you do not have to click this. It will by default look up the entire content of the replacement box if you click spell. But for the look button, this is the embedded WordNet dictionary. For this, you do have to select it. Select a word here, or down here, click look, and get a definition, hopefully. Now, this also includes the button for the try GCID. That is the GNU online dictionary. It'll send the word to the online dictionary and look it up. The dictionaries, the embedded WordNet and the GNU one, neither one are great, but they're okay. There's also try ChatGPT, and there's a module for the ChatGPT thing. Unfortunately, it's not free, so don't. I don't have a business thing going with OpenAI, but if you get their OpenAI API service, get yourself a key, you can use this, and it costs a little under a penny per word lookup, is what I find. Okay, so look at that, and let's see. Another thing I wanted to show is what? I don't know. I guess actually, this is what I want to show, is if I'm doing a word middle and I'm trimming, I see a lot of times what might happen is, let me reset this so I can see my trims happen. What I'm trying to do is make a couple of words show up in the misspells box. The reason I originally even put there it is. The reason I originally put the dictionary in here is because I would get words, I would get my multi-match autocorrect items, and I'd find a word that it misspells, but the word would be like a super obscure word, like Baconian. I don't know, maybe something to do with the author Bacon, Baconers. So So I figure if a hot string item matches lots of high frequency words, but it also misspells one or two super obscure words, I might go ahead and still use that one. And so that's kind of the reason I put the dictionary, so that I could quickly select a word and then look it up. And of course, I wouldn't use this autocorrection that you're looking at now, because con matches tons of common words. Bacon, wouldn't be able to type bacon, it would turn into bacon. So we don't want that. But if there is a word, like a common word, like, all right, let's just say that, for example, attoseconds here is, let's do anti-converse system lists. Save this, delete these. Right, there's that word. And then I'm going to do, so this is just an example of what I would do if there was a single word that was very obscure, but I really wanted to use. Okay, there we go. It's telling me it's not even a word. Try ChatGPT. Does not appear to be a standard word. I keep running into these. These are the words that are in my word list that are not real words. But if there was a dictionary definition here, I could copy and paste it. Copy, paste it into the comments box, and then when I did append, and instead of actually appending it to the library, I'm going to press the Shift button. So Shift click, and that is going to put it on the keyboard, the clipboard, and so I can paste it in here, and see. Oh man! So there's the item. It's wrapped in the the function call, and it gives me the web frequency and the total number of fixes. But it misspells, and then it shows the word. And I forced it to include this word in the comment by deleting all of the other ones and having just a single word. And then it gives parentheses. I haven't yet got it so that it'll put the pasted definition. But if this were an actual definition, I would have pasted in here. It would now be right here. So I could take this, drag and drop it into the parentheses, and I would have information. So so here would be the autocorrect item, and then, well, this is Microsoft Word that I'm using for my notes, but in here it would appear like this. And so here's a couple of examples. So an item that I made was ANIM, and then it's a typo for anism. So that fixes 140 words, but it misspells this thing, which is a quorum required by Jewish law. So I mean, I don't know. Look through these. If you write about Jewish law, then you probably want to get rid of this autocorrect item. I never do, so I'm comfortable having that in there. Let's see here. So going back to our list, we have the LanguageTools, the WordNet, ChatGPT, the check button. Okay, so we've used the check button already a couple of times. What it does is, it does a validity check of the entry, and mostly what that means is that it's checking to see if there's a duplicate, to see if it's already present in the library, and this one is, because it's an example we used earlier. Also, it's possible for different hot strings to conflict, because if you have two different hot strings that are word middles, and they are shoot, I'm not even going to go too much into detail about that, because the conflicting and nullifying word items are a pretty big topic, but you can read about those in the user manual as well. So it'll flag any hot strings that are likely to conflict with the new one that you are creating. And what else? Let's see the check button. Oh, also with the check button is, so hold on, let me select this, and H. Check button will do the check, and this is telling me that it conflicts with a whole bunch of different things, too many to show. But what I wanted to point out is, for one, you can click on lookup. So select one of these words. So consortia, a consortia. That's one of the grammar check items. I'll look that up, click lookup. It will attempt to open the library item and hopefully look up the word. Consortium. Look up. So if I want to go to the actual item, it's not looking. I guess I'll work on that. Okay, so there's the lookup. There's also a check will happen in the background also if you click append. And so when you append the string, if there are no conflict problems, then it will just append it. If there are, then it'll notify you. And there's an option to append anyway. Okay, I'm getting tired. We're at 41 minutes. So last couple of things, cursor jump. So if you're a keyboard happy person and you just want to use the keyboard, you can do shift right to jump to the end of the replacement string, and shift left to jump to the beginning of the trigger string. Okay, and the last thing I want to show is control up is a zoom, not really a zoom, it's a toggle to make the trigger string, replacement string, and the options text all a little bit larger. You can also do control mouse wheel. Again, not really a zoom, but it's a toggle from normal size to big size. So there's that. And then the last thing I think I want to show you is the different options for the append button. And so up here with the question mark button, there's some tips. So you can get the tips window there. There is also, you can also get the tips by pressing F1 for the different GUI controls here. So F1 for the comment box. This is help for comment edit. If I click here and then press tab, I can highlight the append button without actually tapping it. And now if I press F1, that'll give me some tips. And so shift click is one that we used a little bit ago. It copies it to the clipboard instead of actually appending it. Control click will append it to the library, but it won't close and reload the script. So that's kind of nice because it leaves HotstringHelper open with the item in it. So if you want to make like multiple variations of the same hot string, you can do control click and append all of those. And then with the last one, just do a regular click and it will reload the script. And then alt click sends the item to the suggester tool. And so we will talk about the suggester tool in another screencast. There's probably more stuff that I've missed, but we are at 43 minutes, and so I'm getting tired of talking. You're getting tired of listening. This is Uncle321 for the AutoCorrect app, HotstringHelper. Thanks for watching.